Hurricane Erin causing problems along the East Coast. We got floods worldwide. Let's take a look at the locations. Worms coming out of the ground, red sprites through the atmosphere. Something's definitely turned on. What do you think it is? And we have the tropical storm force winds. This is the cone for you. It's not going to change that much. Pretty much on the money on how it's going to continue along the East Coast here, travel up north, pop out near Nova Scotia, Maritimes of Canada, and we'll see what happens when it gets that far north. It might get a little bit pushed further north or south, but that's going to head over to England and over the British Isles over there. I think Ireland might be getting hit. This is going to be a long duration storm. It starts here, but it is going to make its way across the Atlantic. And what we see on the Outer Banks of North Carolina here, they're going to get a brushing of the hurricane force winds, but the waves are absolutely going to be smashing the coast. No joke here when I talk about 20, 30-foot waves. Now, I know the way it's very gradual coming in, but those waves are going to continually just be pounding nonstop, and they're going to do a lot of damage coastal erosion-wise. So if you're right at the edge, it's not about the wind this time. It's about the coastal flooding and the waves that are just going to be incessant. They're just nonstop for a 3 to 4 day period. And, you know, we've seen how many umpteen thousands of photos where you're watching, you know, coastal homes go into the water. We're going to see something like this. And if you're out at the Outer Banks, perhaps you would want to take that advisory and move off there during this time. You're going to get the wind and you're going to get the waves, both. But looks like coastal, beware. Don't go in the water. The rip currents are going to be absolutely beyond pro swimmer. Olympian swimmer would have trouble getting through these types of currents that are going to be generated by the storm. It's just this massive system of wave generation and water movement offshore. Very, very dangerous. And what they call it was a dirty storm. So you can see it forming, pulling all that dust from Africa. So there's actually a name for the dirty storm. I didn't know what that, the first time I ever heard that. I know dirty foot. That's a derogatory term down here in the Southeast U.S. because you're so poor you don't have any shoes. It's called dirty foot. But a dirty storm, haven't really seen one of these before. Look at all the sand that is pulling off and all the detritus from West Africa there. And if you're looking at the optical thickness or optical depth, you can see look at all that saturation just getting pulled right into the circulation. Very clear to see about halfway through the Atlantic there. That is going to continue. So we're going to get this chugging of dust that is going to continue to, I don't know, it's going to follow. It's creating this sort of a dust stream with it, which is unusual. The air patterns following this going to continue to circulate, but that dust is getting pulled along with it. It's almost like a dust vortex, but on a planetary scale. So I'm saying there's a lot of changes here atmospherically. We're seeing something that's not so common, but it's also creating the conditions of something that is incredibly rare. So when you're going to watch the entire atmosphere and dust pattern get sucked into the storm and follow it, will it follow and transit all the way up across the Atlantic as it goes through Nova Scotia? That'd be incredible to watch that entire loop of sand from Africa getting pulled all the way through this system. But again, somewhere it's got to break off where the winds won't be, strong enough to pull that dust cloud with it. But here it is. I mean, it's all the way out at the Caribbean already, and that is still pulling that much dust with it. Again, they call it a dirty storm, and that's the first time I'd heard this term. There were some first terms that had been, I guess, categorized through climatological history over the last few years that have become more common verbiage, if for a better term. This will be one of them: dusty hurricane, dirty storm. A recent clinical trial found that participants using just 10 grams of collagen a day for 8 weeks saw up to a 20% increase in skin hydration and a 17% improvement in elasticity while visibly reducing their wrinkle depth. If you're aiming to boost skin health, collagen is a must-have, but typical collagen supplements found on store shelves don't always do the job. This is why I use this special blend of collagen. It provides my skin with 5 types of premium collagen it needs to reduce wrinkles, providing smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer lines, and a more youthful glow. Plus, it mixes smoothly with my morning coffee or tea. Make sure to grab a bag while it's still 51% off only at healthwithadapt2030.com. Plus, you'll also get the free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, free shipping with your order. Once again, that website is healthwithadapt2030.com, or click on that link in the description box below. And let's take a look at the red sprites. This is off of Kansas, and you can see the storm way at the bottom. And the vantage point was far, far out, looking over the storm up into the clear skies. But look at the red sprites scraping way up there. 80 miles up, perhaps, somewhere. And if we're looking at electrified skies, now notice the tendrils that are coming down too, like how far those extend. And then we have the upward branching electrical patterns as well. These, in comparison, are massive. And these are borderline what you're seeing in petroglyphs across the planet. Everywhere you look, squatter man, there's all these different plasma petroglyphs that we've seen through the ages here that the ancients had given to us as a warning. When you see this in the skies, things are in great shift. Their change of an age is a better term. But the staggering size of these, this is some of the world's largest ever recorded, visually photographed red sprites you're looking at here. So let's talk about temperatures as well. If there's a electrical disturbance in our atmosphere, it's going to reflect in ground temperatures. Absolutely. More energy in, it's going to change something. So we're going to take it back to the beginning of the month, beginning of August. Joe Bastardi putting this one out here, the American Storm, shout out. August 6th. This actually takes us through the 5th, 6th, 7th, around somewhere in this 3-4 day period. Third coldest since 1981. Coldest since 2013. Now, that was at the beginning of the month. Remember, we cooled down for a sliver there. And then people were like, whew, we got a break from the heat, especially down in the southeast here, where it was 10 degrees cool. Everybody was so thankful those 2-3 days. That was like a gift, cools down out of the 90s, sweltering daytimes. But here we're out looking at 25th, 28th, somewhere there, this 3-day period of 25 through 28. Below normal temperatures, and you can take a look at the probability percentage, and darkest blue is nearly 90+% that it's going to be cooler than normal. And we get down into Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, that area down to the lighter blues there, and definitely going to be below normal temperatures. I looked at our weather forecast. It's going to be dropping down to the low 80s. Evening is going to be in the low 60s. High daytime temperatures barely going to be scraping over 80. Rare for this time of the year, especially in the middle of August. If you're only cranking at 80 for the highs for days in a row, yeah, chalk that one up for being a little bit strange. So it pretends, what will the winter give us is the question. Because we're getting all these floods everywhere. I want to bring you this Chattanooga. They had a massive amount of floods. Again, the biggest floods in 150 years came down, and this is what it looked like in Chattanooga. It's very mountainous down there anyway, a lot of valleys for water to get trapped into. Moving over to Saudi Arabia, not a place normally you would think of floods, but here are the streets getting inundated. Saudi Arabia, deserts, camels, and floods. Those really don't go together in the same sentence, but this is what we're getting here. A lot of rain in the same area around Mecca, but massive. It's been like this second, third, fourth year in a row. So the moisture patterns changed along the Red Sea there. And this is in the Mingora Swat district in Pakistan. Very dry. But then remember, this is a cradle of civilization. These massive floods coming out. This is substantially far beyond anything that has been registered. Look at that. You're in the middle of the city and this much water is coming down. We're so far beyond the, Black Swan event on these types of things, but it's planet wide. It's happening everywhere. Look at the size of this. Where's the stream? Where's this coming from? These rivers are just getting so swollen coming out of the mountains that were normally dry. That's why people built really, really close. And we're looking at, again, cradles of civilization. They were once green. They dried out into desert areas, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Indus Valley, all the way over to Mesopotamia, now dry, Iraq, Iran, this whole area, Sumeria previously. But now the floods are returning. So is the water. So this is a huge shift from green deserts, milk and honey, to desert, and now we're coming back to green deserts again. So there's a multi-thousand-year pattern here. And this is Foshan in China. Again, China has some of the most amazing waterworks and water exit projects, especially in hurricane areas, but this is what it is. And then if we're looking in Japan, again, top-notch country for water an engineering project, but their systems just are overwhelmed by the amount of water coming in. And then here's Incheon in South Korea. I mean, you're talking about major engineering feats here on the planet over the last 100 years been done. And these are the top of the top, and they still cannot contend with what nature's throwing at it. But an interesting one then, with all these floods, worms and pill bugs, what I call them, are all trying to get up and escape. So anywhere that they're coming up, think about nature itself. It wants to get out. So you got to consider snakes are going to be in here, centipedes, millipedes, all these types of things that are on the ground normally. They're going to want to get out of the water with you. Spiders. So if you have a house that's surrounded, you're just going to get an enormous amount of wildlife that can find a refuge in there. So you're going to be sharing with some critters. Now, these apparently is happening everywhere these massive floods are. And people always ask, hey, give me some solutions. Here you go. Growing a vegetable garden in between the cracks of bricks. Now, when I saw this, I was thinking, what is going on here? But using the cracks as weed control, easily rode up, fertilizer can be dropped exactly in that hole. People are gardening this way in old brick masonry floored areas. So instead of having just bricks, why don't you do it as a garden like this? Great idea. If you have some old bricks laying around, why don't you do that or make your own ideas with it? Because what we're moving into is going to take an enormous amount of solutions, just not going to be just one size fits all. So this brick idea is really quite the unique thing. Now, I'm sure we all can come up with bricks or something like this. If you want to try it, lay them out, make a garden area, but you could probably enlarge the space. Instead of what they did, that brick was laid down as a street or some sort of like courtyard area. So they're going to be really tight, but you could put them really tight and then chip off the corners and create that circular so the plant can go in there. That's a great idea. Mixing it with the electroculture, brick farming. I don't even know what the words for that type of, gardening would be. Put a term to it. Throw it down in the comments below. I'd like to put a name to it. Brick farming. I don't know. That's the best thing I could think of. But anyway, appreciate your time. Hope you got something out of the video. Things are changing all around. Ransom Godwin and myself, Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight on Rumble. Join us there. Civilization Cycle live radio show / podcast. And you can get up on our show notes at civilizationcycle.com. Send you out a one-pager with that. And please join the conversation, tiktok.com at Civilization Cycle. We're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers there so we can go live. We're currently at around 4,985 or something like this. So please help us get those last 15 subscribers so we can go live and have another venue so we can be able to talk about this information more with another whole crowd on TikTok. Again, I thank you so much for your valuable time. Share this with friends, family. Smash that subscribe button, like button. Help the algorithm because YouTube's not being too kind to this type of information. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.